Alright guys, day 2. We're going to graph polynomials today. We are doing the first 4 questions on our homework. So if you have that paper out, let's get to work. Okay, so we're going to graph these polynomials. We need to know how to factor them. We need to know how to read the equation given to us. Okay, some things that we're going to figure out is we've got to figure out the end behavior as well as the x-intercepts. Okay, my end behavior is what is the graph going to look like? And what's the graph going to look like? And what's the end behavior going to be? So here's what we need to know. Is we need to know what kind of, POS. All right, if it's a positive or if it's a negative. Okay. What kind of a equation have we given you? Okay. We're going to look at the leading coefficient when it's in standard form. Okay, that's the first thing. Then we're going to look at the degrees. Okay, whenever they're multiplied all together, whenever you just have a bunch of parentheses, you're going to add them up. Okay, if it's even, positive, the end behavior is going to be pointing up in both directions. If it's even negative, it's going to be pointing down. If it's an odd positive, thinking of just a line, if it's an odd, if it's a line that is in a positive slope, it's going to go up towards the right, and if it has a negative slope, it's going to go down towards the left. You'll understand kind of what this looks like on the graph in a minute. Okay. So this even and odd is looking at the degrees. The positive and negative is looking at my leading coefficient, or we try and sneak in some things in between. My x-intercepts. Okay, if I have a degree of 1, we're going to go through it. If I have a degree of 2, we're going to bounce. Okay, when things are squared, we're going to circle them. Okay, if it has a degree of 3, it's going to squiggle through. Okay, and a bounce looks like that guy. So a degree of 1, you're going to go through, squared, you're going to bounce, and a degree of 3, you're going to squiggle through. Okay, let's figure out what this means. Okay, here's my graph. Some things I need to find. I need to find my zeros, and I'm going to find my y-intercept just for another point of reference to make sure I'm graphing this correctly. All right, so I'm looking at this graph. Okay, this is not in standard form. This is in factored form. Okay, so I'm looking at the 4. This is an x plus 1 that has a degree of 1, x minus 2 that has a degree of 1, and x minus 4 that has a degree of 1. Okay, my degree is 3. We would call that an odd number. Now I'm looking to see, hey, what kind of leading coefficient? I'm not going to FOIL this out, but I'm going to say, okay, my leading coefficient is a 4, and there's no negative with the x in front of the x inside my parentheses. Okay, so like that would be a 4, that would be a positive x, positive x, positive x. We'd say this is a positive. Okay, so it's an odd positive, so it's going to go, my end behavior is going to look like that line. Okay, what does that mean? How is that helpful? Okay, let's look at my zeros real quick. This is going to be x is equal to negative 1, 2, and 4. How did I do that? I said x plus 1 equal to 0, x minus 2 equal to 0, and x minus 4 equal to 0. All right, and then I'm going to find my y-intercept. So I have a 4 times 1 times negative 2 times negative 4. It's going to be 4 times 8. Which is a 32. So my y-intercept is 0, 32. How's this graph going to look? So we're just going to draw an xy axis. Okay, my zeros are at negative 1. I'm going to put a dot. At 2, I'm going to put a dot. And then at 4, I'm going to put a dot. Nothing is squared. Nothing is bounced. Nothing is cubed. So it all has a degree of 1. So that's how that's going to look. My y-intercept is up here at 32. Okay. And then I'm going to identify my end behavior. My end behavior should be up here, and then it should be down here. Pretend that that line connects. Okay? That's where my end behavior should be. So you're like, where am I supposed to start? You're supposed to start at your end behavior. So I'm going to start up here. This just says I go through this. I've got to come back up and get that point. I've got to go through that y-axis up here, and you're like, where am I supposed to go now? Go get that other point, and you're coming down, ending up in your end behavior. Okay. End behavior is important. Your zeros are important. Your y-intercept is one more thing that's going to help you figure this out. Okay? Here's our next one. We've got f of x is equal to negative, and then I've got 3 plus x, 2 minus x squared, and 1 minus x. Okay? I'm going to go ahead and figure out if this is an even or odd. I have 1, 2, 3, 4. My degree is 4. That's even. Now I've got to figure out if this is even or positive or negative. Okay? Now, well, you got a negative out there, so it must be a negative. Okay? Well, not totally the case, because look what's inside of here. Okay, there's a negative out front. This x right here is positive. This x right here is negative, but there's 2 of them because it's squared. This x back here is negative. These are the ones we have to look out for whenever we have a number and then a minus your x. Okay? So what I have here is actually I have 4 negatives. You have 4 negative numbers. They're all going to cancel out. This is going to give you a positive even, which means my end behavior is going to be looking up. This right here is the guy that we need to figure out and that we need to be careful of. That's what we have to pay attention to. And this guy as well. Okay? So how does that help? Why do we care? So now when I find my zeros, right? I'll write that down just a minute. I'm only looking at my x values. I'm not even looking at the negative out front because that doesn't have an x with it. So I'm saying this is x is going to equal negative 3. Okay, this is 2 minus x is equal to 0. Bring the x over so I get 2 equals x. I'm going to circle it. Why am I circling it? Because it's supposed to bounce there. If I do not circle it right now, I'm probably not going to have it bounce. Then my last one's at 1. 1 minus x is equal to 0. Move the x over and leave it at that. Now let's find my y-intercept. So I have a negative 3, 2 squared, and then 1. Negative 12. My y-intercept is down there at negative 12. Okay, so here we go. Just going to say that's negative 12. So now I've got negative 3. I put a dot. At 2, I put a dot, and then I'm going to circle it to hopefully remind myself that I'm supposed to bounce there. So now my end behavior, and you're like, do you have to do it with that highlighter stuff? No, but that's my end behavior. So you're asking me, where do you start? You start at your end behavior. I'm going to start up here on the right. I'm going to go, I'm going to bounce. And you're like, what? But I got to come back. I got to come back and get that point. Got to go get that next point. And basically, you're just like connecting the dots at this point. And you're going up and you're ending up in your end behavior on the top left. Yes, you need to put arrows on each of the lines because you are drawing a line. Parabola, whatever. There's the third one. Okay, this one is written differently. This is not in factored form. This is in standard form. So I'm in standard form, so I don't have to count all of my degrees up. I'm saying, hey, what's my highest degree? My highest degree is a 3. That's odd. And since it is in standard form, all I have to look to see, hey, out in front, is there a positive or negative? I don't have to add up all the positive or negatives because I'm not in factored form. Okay? So right here, this is a negative. So it's odd negative, so I'm going to have a line that has a negative slope. But now it's going to be harder for me to find my zeros because now I need to factor it. Okay? So I'm taking out a negative x because I want to factor with a positive x squared out in front. So I take out a negative x in front of everything. Again, I should have 3 zeros, right? My highest degree is 3, so I've got x squared plus 8x plus 15. So I have a negative out there. The 2 numbers that multiply to get 15 and add to get 8 are 5 and 3. So now here's an easy way for me to find my zeros. So my zeros are x equals 0 and negative 5 and negative 3. My y-intercept is 0 times 5 times 3, which is just going to give me 0, 0. So I've got 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, put a dot. Back here at 3, put a dot. Hey, you have to label your x and y axis, okay? I do not just want some dots along my x-axis, and you'd be like, well, how did you not know they were 2? Well, I don't know if you know if they were at 2 or not, I need you to put tick marks. Okay, or you can use some of my graphing paper. I'm going to put my end behavior on like that. Then where am I going to start? It doesn't matter. I can start down here at the bottom. Saying, okay, what am I supposed to do? I'm just going through this. Ooh, got to go through the next one. Coming back up, and I've got to end up back in my green, which is my end behavior. There's my graph. Number 4, this is back into factored form. So factored form, I do add up, because what I'm not going to do, and I'm not going to ask you to do that, is I'm not going to ask you to FOIL this out to be able to figure out, hey, what's your highest degree? If you FOILed it out, we're going to get the exact same degree that we're getting whenever we add them. Since there's an X out in front, I'm not putting the 1 with the 2, I'm putting the 1 with the X for my degree. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So my degree is 7, which is an odd number. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, okay? And now if this is even, or positive or negative. So now I gotta look. There's a negative out in front. That X is a positive. This X is a positive. This X right here is a negative, and there's 2 of them because it's squared. This X on the back side, there are 3 of them. So now you're like, okay, what do you do now? Well, I cancel a negative with a negative with a negative, and then a negative with a negative. There were 1, 2, 3, there were 6 negatives. If I multiply 6 negatives together, guess what I'm going to get? A positive. So this is a positive odd. So what would be out in front would be, or my leading coefficient would be a positive number, and my degree would be 7. So then my end behavior is a line that is in the, going up to the top right. So now let's say what our zeros are. We're setting every X value equal to 0. So negative 2X is equal to 0 is just going to give me 0. X is equal to 0. X is equal to negative 2. X is equal to 5. I'm circling it. X is equal to 2. And I'm triangling it. Okay? Because it's cubing. When I plug in 0 for everything, my my y-intercept is going to get a 0 as well. So 0, I'm going to go back to, forward 2, put a triangle around it, 3, 4, 5, circle that. My end behavior, I'm going down and up. Okay, I'm going to start at the top. I'm bouncing off of that guy. Then I'm coming up. I'm going to squiggle through. Connect the dots, end up down at the bottom left-hand corner. Put your arrows on, and then you're good to go. Those first 4 were in our homework. This guy's not in our homework, but these are the last 2. It says, now write this polynomial given the zeros. So what I know is I know that X is equal to negative 3, X is equal to 4, and X is equal to 1/2. I need to put them back into the parentheses. So back into the parentheses, this would be X plus 3, because I'm moving that 3 over. This would be X minus 4. This would be X minus 1/2. So that could be your equation. X plus 3, X minus 4, and X plus 1/2. This guy right here could be written like something else. So this is X is equal to 1/2. If I multiply both sides by 2, you're going to get 2X is equal to 1. You're going to bring that over, and you're going to get 2X minus 1. So another way that you're going to write this, and if we asked you to FOIL this out, to multiply this out and give me this in standard form, I promise you you're going to want to do this bottom guy, because there's no way you're going to want to FOIL with a fraction. It's not wrong in the top if we say leave it in factored form. Okay? If we say to FOIL it out, you're going to probably want to do the bottom one. Okay? Take your time, finish this homework. Okay, we've got a few left to do. And then you have, so what, you've got 5 through 10, and then you've got 11 and 12, which are the ones like this, just writing the polynomials. Okay? Have your questions down, and we will see you back here on Tuesday. We're going to be dividing, and we've got a quiz on Friday. Goodbye.